So without further ado, let me introduce today's speaker, John Patterson. And I'm very pleased to introduce him. John is, I've had the opportunity to work with him, and I consider him a good friend. He is founder and president of Progressive Insights and is a member of the Chip Bell Group. For over 30 years, John has had executive leadership experience in the hospitality, business services, real estate, and financial services industries. And during that time, he's managed to co-author 3 books with Chip Bell, including the award-winning international bestseller Wired and Dangerous, How Customers Have Changed and What to Do About It, the national bestseller Take Their Breath Away, How Imaginative Service Creates Devoted Customers, and Customer Loyalty Guaranteed, Create, Lead, and Sustain Remarkable Customer Service. John's articles have appeared in publications such as Customer Relationship Management, Incentive Magazine, SBusiness, Quality Digest, Customer Service Excellence, M-World, Sales and Service Excellence, and Leadership Excellence. He has also appeared live on ABC News and the Fox Business Network. John's consulting practice specializes in helping organizations effectively deliver great customer experiences that drive loyalty and bottom-line growth, and he has served as a consultant or trainer to organizations like McDonald's Corporation, Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen, Rollins Incorporated, Allstate Insurance, Turner Construction Company, Sodexo, and many more. John served as a supply officer in the United States Navy and holds an MBA from the Darden School at Virginia and a BS in Business Administration from the Citadel. And even though he was not fortunate enough to have attended the Terry College of Business, he was wise enough to have married a Terry grad and has several of his children who are either or are soon to be Terry grads. This morning, John's talk is about creating an extraordinary customer experience that drives loyalty and growth. So please join me in welcoming John Patterson.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning. We better try that again. Good morning. Good morning. That's much better. Now turn to the person on your left, looking straight in the eye, and say, I feel good. That's much better. That's much better. I like that. Well, thank you for having me today. I'm excited and delighted to be here to get to talk with you all about a subject I'm really passionate about, and that's why you should choose a customer experience strategy to differentiate your organization. In other words, why you should deliver great customer experiences that drive loyalty and growth that will take you to a different place. I don't know if you've noticed, but customers have changed. They've changed. Their expectations have increased over 33% in the last 12 months. And satisfaction is no longer going to buy us much of anything. Customers today think about what we put them through when they do business with us, their experience by using a yardstick that compares what you do to them when they work with your organization with what's happened to them across all the different facets of their life. So their yardstick is different. If you're just thinking about what the experience is like with your competitor, you're missing what your customer's thinking about, because they're thinking about comparing your experience to what happened to them when they went to see Mickey. Have you been to see Mickey? Usually you take some short people down there with you to see Mickey, and you leave all your money at the front door when you go see Mickey, isn't that right? But when you get back, there's an impact to those people that work down there. You know, those people that are just disgustingly friendly, aren't they? And they're the most helpful people you've ever run into in your entire life, and they know a whole lot about what goes on in that park. So if they've been down there, that's the experience they're having, and what if the next place they stop is your place? The yardstick they use is that visit to Mickey, to think about their experience. And satisfaction, as I said earlier, gets us nothing. It's all about devoted customers, loyal customers. If you were to ask customers that had been with an organization and left, 75% of those customers who left the provider would tell you they were satisfied with the provider they left. Now you might say, well, why'd they leave? Well, they're looking for something very different. Customers today are very powerful. They have a very, very high level they expect from your experience. We know that 57% of customers today have had a bad experience in the last 12 months. 66% of them have told somebody about it. 44% of them are going to stop using that provider. And 62% of customers who heard about what happened to that customer are going to stop using the provider or avoid using that provider. So you can see how powerful customers are and how they spread the word very quickly. And of course, that's that internet that allows them to be louder and to have a much further reach than they ever have before. So I want to talk a little bit about why it's important to understand your customer today, how they've changed, the return you could get for delivering a great experience, and then if we have time, how you can do that, how you can deliver that great experience. But I need your help. You know, I'm a consultant. I fly in and stir things up, and I fly back out. I don't know much about anything, really, but I spend all my time in the customer experience arena, and I like to make this talk this morning as practical and relevant to whatever you do as I can. So as we go along, I hope you'll ask me questions. I hope you'll argue with me, you'll provoke me, and we'll have a great conversation. You don't have to wait till the end. Scott's drilled me over and over again. We're going to have Q&A. I get it. I understand. He's very good at managing this. But let's talk as we go along, because I want this to be a fabulous session. Matter of fact, I'll be disappointed if this isn't the best session in your entire life. If this session this morning doesn't help you lose weight, improve your marriage, and make you a better lover, I'm really going to be disappointed. I always have to stop and see where the really good lovers are in the room. So do we have any really good lovers here this morning? See, I knew there'd be some hands that go up. Now, I know you're going, him? But we'll see. I'll leave that to him to explain what's going on down there. But let's begin with a couple of thoughts for the day. The first one is from Lynn Berry, who's a professor at Texas A&M, and really talks about getting... Ooh, we might have problems here. I don't know how we did that. Where's the technical guys? Just what I need is a Norton monthly report right now. They obviously don't understand their customer very well. So what Lynn is saying is today customers expect us to know them, and you have to get to know them really, really well. You know, a great example to think about is Amazon keeps sending me emails and telling me what books to read. You know, I keep buying those books and reading them and finding out they're right. So you know what they do. They send me some more emails to tell me to read some more books. And what do? I buy some more books, and that just keeps going, doesn't it? But they know their customer so incredibly well, and the customer expects us to know them incredibly well. I told you that customer expectations are up 33% in the last 12 months, and they're not going to stop changing. So we got to work really hard to get to understand them. And this is all about the experience. And the experience is an emotional connection. Customers today cry for organizations that can consistently deliver an experience that makes an emotional connection. So it's really about how we make people feel as we put them through whatever we put them through to do business with us. But let's look at what's going on with customers. When you think about customer experience and you look at it from the customer's perspective, we know that before the recession, there were three elements to how customers thought about value. I need to get a quality outcome or product at a fair price, and you need to have a good experience. But they're all three equal elements up there. During the recession, something happened to customers, and now the way they think about value looks like this. Same three elements, but you notice the proportions are different. And so the biggest differentiator to how we think about value as a customer is what we put people through. It's that experience there, and they're raising the bar every day. Now, why have customers changed? There are really three reasons that customers have changed. We know that today we have way more choices than we ever did before. A very simple example. This is a dangerous story today because one of the people I'm going to talk about is sitting to my right. So I'm going to walk over here and talk about that. You know, if I'm lucky, I get to travel every week in my business. And when I land on Thursday evening after been on the road a couple days, and you know, usually we land late because on time is a relative term if you travel a lot, if you've been out there. And so I'm driving home, and it's taken me 38 years to figure out how to answer a question. I've been married 40 years to the lady sitting over there close to Scott. And about 2 years ago, I figured out when I call home and she says, "Would you mind stopping at the grocery store to pick up a loaf of whole wheat bread?" Guys, that there was really only one answer to that question. It took me 38 years, but I've got it now. So when she asked me that question, I know that I need to say, "Yes, dear, there's nothing I'd rather do than stop at the frickin' grocery store to buy a frickin' loaf of bread for you after I've been on the road all week." So now the last 2 years I've gotten smarter. It only took me 38 years. We've been married 40 years there. So that's a good thing. But I get to the grocery store, and where do I go? I go to the bread wing, right? How many loaves of whole wheat bread, different kinds of whole wheat bread are there? There's a ton of them. Now, guys, I know that if I pick the wrong loaf of whole wheat bread, what sort of credit will I get when I get home? I'm probably going to go back out to the grocery store to get the right one, so I use my cellular device. It's to call her and get the right one. A very simple demonstration of how many choices there are out there. And it's true for our customers today, whether they're B2C or B2B customers. The other thing that's happened is customers are way smarter than they've ever been before. And you know what's done that, right? It's that access to information we all have on the internet. It wasn't long ago that my children ganged up on, I have 5 of them, by the way, and one of them's here today, so I have to be careful about this story. My children ganged up on me and they said to me, "Hey, Dad, you need a new flat screen TV so you can watch more of your favorite sporting programs in the den. You understand what's going on here, I'm sure." And I said, "Well, that's great, but you all have to figure out what TV to get." And you know, by the time we went to pick up that flat screen TV, we knew more than the salesperson did. Our customers today are incredibly smart. They can find out all about our organization, what we offer, and most importantly, how other customers feel about the experience that they get from our organization. The other thing that is going on with customers I talked about with you before is that the way they think about experience is they use little snippets of what's happened to them across their life to build their yardstick for what they expect from you. I talked about visiting Mickey. Maybe they've called the FedEx call center. If you've ever called the FedEx call center, they answer the phone almost before it rings. You would too if Express was in your name. And they have really helpful, knowledgeable people there who do a great job at getting your package to wherever it needs to go. So if they've just called the FedEx call center and had a great experience and they call your place next, guess what yardstick they're using to measure that experience? So 3 things have happened, right? More choices, they're smarter, and the way they build that yardstick for customer experience. So what I would tell you is today customers are picky, fickle, vocal, and vain. And most importantly, they're wired. I bet everybody today has their favorite electronic instrument very close by, right? We would go nowhere without it. We don't go to sleep without it being close by. It's really important. We're all connected, and customers are all connected there. So it's important to realize that they're all connected, and we live in a 24/7 by 365-day world. And the key there is what they think about urgency and responsiveness. If you send someone an email, when do you expect to get an answer? About the time you push that button, send, isn't that right? So when time elapses, like a week goes by, you don't hear from them, how do you feel? That's an audience participation question there. Yeah. You feel neglected. And indifference above everything else drives the customer away. If a customer complains via email and you don't respond within a week to that email, 50% of them will just walk out the door. Pretty big deal, isn't it? A lot at risk there. We say that customers are picky. During the recession, they have decided to take a hard look at who they're going to spend their money with. And so They expect way more value before they turn less of that dollar. They expect a personalized experience. They expect to deal with companies that know them and know what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. So they're picky. They hold on that dollar a lot longer. They're fickle. They really have a high ruler in terms of how they measure the experience. They're much less tolerant of us when we make mistakes, and they're much faster to leave. We used to say you're going to get 3 strikes with a customer. Today, we're lucky to get 1. And if we make a mistake and we don't have a good plan for fixing things, they'll be out the door. If we fix things and we do it urgently, we got a great chance of turning them. But there's a high risk that they'll go. They're vocal. They're really loud. It's much easier to complain. They still tell 5 to 7 people when they have a good experience, and they tell 14 to 20 when they have a bad experience, unless they're a heavy social media user. And then you can just multiply that thing by whatever number you want to, because they reach an exponentially greater number of people. So they're loud, and they have a big reach, and they're vain. We're all used to getting personalized service. Service that makes us feel like we're the only customer. Now, we know we're not the only customer of that organization, but people who get it try to make us feel that way. We like personalized service. We like what we want, when we want it, and how we want it. So that's what's going on with the customer. Let's look at an example of how powerful they are. This guy's Dave Carroll. Dave Carroll was sitting on a United Airlines jet in the spring of 2008 when another passenger said, "Hey, look, they're throwing those guitar cases around out on the tarmac." Well, Dave has a band, and those guitar cases were Dave's band's guitar cases. And they broke Dave's tailor-made guitar. Now, if you play guitar, you know that a tailor-made guitar is a really good guitar. You wouldn't want to break that, but they did. So Dave spent a year talking with United Airlines about that and trying to get them to provide him some satisfaction for what happened with his guitar. After a year, when he didn't get what he was looking for, he decided to do what you would do if you had a band and you were a songwriter. He decided to write a song about his adventure with United Airlines and, of course, make an accompanying music video called United Breaks Guitars. So only 14 million people have looked at that video. And conservatively, it's only cost United Airlines $180 million in brand value. I think that's a very conservative estimate that the economists did right there. It's still out there today in 2014. Dave wrote a book. You know what it's called? United Breaks Guitars. Dave's hot as a firecracker on the speaking tour. He's a really good speaker. So you see how powerful it is, but let's take a look at what's out there about United.
United, United, you broke my Taylor guitar. United, United, some big help you are. You broke it, you should fix it. You're liable, just admit it. I should have flown with someone else or gone by car. 'Cause United breaks guitars.
Is that not awesome? And that's just a little tiny snippet of the video. So if you go on YouTube, you can watch United Breaks Guitars. Oh, and there are 2 more videos from Dave. So there are 3 videos that tell his story. Now, he's very open and honest about what United has done. Taylor Guitarists wanted to thank Dave for all the publicity he's given them, so they gave him a new tailor-made guitar because he's been such a great marketing aid to him. So we look at that just to say customers are really powerful. You wouldn't want your organization in a video like that that's still out there 6 years after that episode. And every time I get to talk to a group and I use this, I go on there and check how many hits are on there, and you know what? The hits have increased every single time. So more and more folks are looking at that. I should level set with you and tell you how I think about customer experience and how I hope you will start to think about customer experience. First of all, I believe that the experience is what your customer says it is. So many times when we do consulting and we ask people, well, How you doing with a customer? In our early visits, the client says to us, oh, we're doing great. And we say, well, how do you know? And they look at us and they kind of frown at us and they say, well, I've been in this business 132 years. I know. And I said, well, that's a wonderful story. We're glad that you know. Have you asked them lately? And they look at us and say, no, I don't need to. Well, actually, we think you do. We think you need to stay really close to your customer to understand how you're doing and understand how they're changing. So the first tenet I would say is the customer experience is what your customer says it is. And delivering a great customer experience is everybody in the organization's role. Many times when we work with organizations, we say, so who's in charge of the customer experience? And they say customer service is, or the call center is. And the reality is everybody is. And even if you don't work on the front line, even if you support those who do work on the front line, the way you treat folks on the inside of the organization has a significant impact on what happens to them with the customer. Because people learn how to treat customers from how they get treated inside your organization. You probably heard that old story, if you want happy customers, what do you have to have first? Happy employees. This is rocket science, isn't it? It is. It's very, very true. It's been around a long time. And so what happens to those folks on the inside of your organization has a lot to do with what happens to those folks on the outside of your organization. Reliability and problem solving are very big. Having a plan to do it the right way when you have a mistake is really important. Do customers expect us to be perfect? Actually, they don't. They don't, but they expect us to know how to recover when we make a mistake, and they expect us to do it urgently and effectively. And if we do, they'll be more loyal than they were before we made that mistake. Makes you think you ought to run out and break a bunch of stuff, doesn't it, and then fix it all. But we wouldn't suggest that as a great strategy. Technology is important, especially today. But high tech with high touch is what your customer is looking for. Are there any Zappos shoppers in the house? Anybody shop at Zappos? See, I know they're big Zappos shoppers when the hands go up like this. Yeah, I see it over there. Yeah. And when you go on Zappos' website, because they're an online retailer, what you find about Zappos is you can interact with Zappos any way you want to, can't you? You can call that 1-800 number that's on every single page of that website and talk to one of those crazy, weird, but very helpful, very knowledgeable people. That's their culture out there, crazy and weird, but they're very, very good. Or you can talk to them on online chat, or you can send them an email. They're happy to interact with you any way you'd like to interact. High tech with high touch. Now, I hate the self-checkout line at the grocery store. Do you go through the self-checkout line at the grocery store? It's billed to be very efficient and effective, and I think it sucks. Because every time I go through the self-checkout line, you know what happens? It doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, what happens to me? I have to wait for who? A person, right? I love to wait. Don't you like to wait? Have you found that your customers love to wait? We don't like to wait, do we? I hate that self-checkout line. The only time I really like it is when I buy that big bottle of red juice that I really like to drink at night, you know. And they tell me that they have to check my ID. I'm so old, I just love it when they come check my ID. But other than that, I hate that thing. It was billed as being very efficient for the customer. What is it really? Saving a little bit of money for the grocery store, I think. So if you do high tech, we just ask you to do it with high touch because the customer wants a role in the service experience and wants to be able to interact with a human being, even though they love that technology. So what? What if we do a great job with customer experience? What do we get? Well, we know that companies that deliver a consistently great experience are great places to work. It's that happy employee and happy customer deal. So if you look at the list of the 100 best companies to work for in this country, you will find that most of them, if not all of them, deliver a great customer experience. The second thing is we know that if you look at the top 25% of companies in the American Customer Satisfaction Index, that's an independent index run by the University of Michigan, you will find that their financial returns far exceed pretty much any measure of financial return that you can come up with. So it really pays to deliver a great experience. We know from John Goodman's work with TARP that if we could just consistently deliver service beyond expectation, just get above the customer's expectation, we'd have a 12% lift to repurchase from those customers. Now, I love repurchase. I think repurchase is a good thing, don't you? And if you could teach the customer, if you could proactively share information with your customer, you would get a 32% lift to repurchase. So customers in this world want you to help make them smarter. And if you do it effectively, you get a tremendous lift to repurchase. We also know that the cost of retaining a customer is 1/5 to 1/6 the cost of acquiring a new one. So you can see, while a long run with that customer, retaining that customer for a long time really pays off. We just talked about complaining about service, and if you do it great, you fix it fast, they're more loyal. They're 8% more loyal than they were when they started. And as I said earlier, today's customer is extremely powerful, and their expectations change all the time, and they're increasing. So they're setting the bar higher every time. Here's an example. Delta is an Atlanta-based company. And if you look at what's happened since their new CEO took over, that's their American Customer Satisfaction Index score that's gone up since 2011. And that's their stock price that's gone up right along with it. So you see the correlation there. And what we also looked at their pre-tax income. And their pre-tax income went from $769 million in 2011 to $2.538 billion in 2013. Now, is there some stuff going on with oil prices? Sure, there's some. But, you know, they hedge that stuff so that it doesn't fluctuate too much. So you see the correlation between delivering a great experience, that's an ACSI score, and financial return. If we had taken $100 and had been smart enough to invest it in companies in the top 25% of the American Customer Satisfaction Index in 2000, we'd have almost $500 today. If we took that same $100 and put it in the S&P, we would have less than what we started with today. The point being, delivering a consistently great experience that drives loyalty, it pays. So what makes great service great? Well, these are some folks that we think do a great job. And what you find when you look at them is they relentlessly pursue understanding their customer, their expectations. They relentlessly pursue measuring how they're doing. They keep the customer in the middle of everything they do, and they're a great place to work. And those are the kinds of things that makes great service great. I love to grocery shop. Don't you all love to grocery shop? Is that not your favorite outing you like to go? I know my wife loves to grocery shop. She tells me that all the time. But what if there was a place that changed the grocery shopping experience and made it fun? Have you been to Stu Leonard's? Anybody been to Stu Leonard's? They're in the Northeast. Let's go to Stu Leonard's. Now, Stu Leonard's has had an amazing run. He started off as a small dairy store, and he's expanded. He has been on the Fortune top 100 places to work in America for 10 consecutive years, and he set a record for retail sales in a grocery store per square foot. So whatever Stu's doing is working. Let's take a quick trip to see Stu, and when we're done, I'll ask you to tell me, how does he do that? What's the magic? How does he create great customer service? How does he inspire those employees?
This is a film about success. Success that is based on cows, real cows, and people dressed up as cows, human cows. Stu Leonard's Dairy is a super farmer's market. At number 1 in sales dollars per customer, this is the most successful food store in the world. Why do they keep coming back? The answer is actually pretty simple.
All right, all right.
Each employee at Stu Leonard's accepts personal responsibility for a positive attitude about work and customers.
Why do they keep coming back? I'll tell you. The freshness, the quality, the friendliness of the team members, and most importantly, every day is showtime.
So what'd you notice about Stu Leonard's? Is that like your grocery store? What's different about Stu Leonard's? Anybody? The smile, right? The smile. All those folks seem to be happy, didn't they? What's that? They're dancing. They're, it's like a party at Stu Leonard's there, which is hard to tell as the aisles are very different. I bet the aisles in your grocery store are real straight, and you go down there. Some of them are so narrow you wonder how you get past with another cart. At Stu's, the aisles are extra wide. It's like a winding road, and they take great, great effort to entertain you while you shop. You can see why Stu's making lots of money there. It's created a great experience. You know that cow suit? You saw the real cow, and then you saw that person in the cow suit? Well, if you're an employee and you show up for work at Stu Leonard's and you forgot your Stu Leonard's attitude that day, you know that happens sometimes, you're going to spend some time in the cow suit. And they tell me that the cow suit has a major impact on changing people's attitude. And it doesn't take very long to do that when you wear the cow suit. Absolutely true story. We were working with the Javits Convention Center in New York City, and when we talked about this with a group we were working with up there, the CEO at lunchtime sent somebody out to get a cow suit. He wanted to make sure everybody got the point. And so a guy walked in a room full of leaders at the Javits Center with the cow suit, and we had a whole attitude adjustment happen just like that because nobody wanted to get back in that cow suit when they were done. Stu does an amazing job. Everybody there gets it. They understand what's going on. Stu has 2 rules. The customer is always right. If you think the customer is wrong, reread rule number 1. Is the customer always right? We don't think so. But the way we talk to the customer when they're wrong is very important, and we need to make the customer feel like they're right. We need to have a yes spirit and attitude every time we can. Stu's been incredibly successful, and he makes sure that every employee who works for him understands his vision and where they're going. So, sometimes our processes and systems break down. Does that ever happen in your business? Every now and then a process breaks down or a system breaks down. And when that happens, we worry. We worry that customers are at risk. So let me tell you a quick story about an actual experience when the system broke down and get you to help me think about what signals Hertz was sending to its customers and to its employees when this happened. Wasn't long ago, my co-author and I were going to Dallas, Texas to work with Freeman, that's a client of ours. And we had an amazing airline experience that day. We landed on time. Have you been to DFW? Has anybody landed in DFW? So if you go to DFW, you know that they got one rental car bus, and you take that one rental car bus to the really big rental car place. It takes about 2 days because we're in Texas, and it seems like it doesn't really take 2 days, but it seems like that. And all the rental car companies are there. Now, we travel all the time, and we're Hertz #1 Club Gold customers. So here's the quiz for today. If you had gold customers, what sort of service experience would you want them to have? You'd like excellent, wouldn't you? This is rocket science as we move here into the last part. If you had gold customers, you'd like them to at least have gold service, wouldn't you? Pretty much. Help your neighbor if they're struggling with that question now. Okay? So we went there, and if the system works, then your name is up here, and there's a number. And your vehicle is in that stall, and it's all gassed up and all ready to go, and you don't have to wait. You know I love to wait, just like all your customers love to wait. Well, this time the system broke, and my name wasn't up on the board, even though my travel agent had called 3 weeks ahead of time and made a reservation. You ever make those reservation things? Seems like when you make one, they're supposed to have stuff for you. It's always, And when did we show up? On time. Right on time. Anyway, so when your name isn't on the board, and you're a gold member, you're supposed to go someplace called the gold booth. Now, if you had a gold booth in your organization, what sort of service would you have in the gold booth? Man, you guys are catching on really fast. So we know, unfortunately, that the gold booth usually doesn't have gold service. So we split up. He went to the gold booth. I got in the regular line because sometimes the regular line goes faster than the gold booth line. This time, the gold booth was faster. And he called me, and I went running out there. And I put my driver's license and my credit card up there, and I said to your trained employee with a name tag, as he was working away, I just couldn't help myself. I said, how come my name wasn't on the board? Because, you know, if my name had been on the board, we'd been gone by now. And he looked up from what he was doing, and he looked at me, and he said, I'm so sorry. We are all out of cars. And I thought to myself, and here I am at Hertz Rent a Car, and I made a reservation, and as I look out the window, there are these things out there with tires, you know, and things. But I knew if I kept talking to him, it was going to delay our departure, and we had to get to that meeting. So I sort of shut up and let him finish. He said, you're in stall 34. So Chip and I went running out there and put our stuff in the car, and I jumped in the driver's seat because you don't ever let Chip drive. It's really hazardous. And Chip got in the passenger side. I said, Chip, we got a big problem. There are no keys in this car. What do you think? What are we going to do? He said, let's look for them. So we did what you would do. We looked under the floor mats, you know, behind the seat, in the trunk, under the hood, on the roof, under the car. And, you know, we couldn't find those keys. And I said, Chip, I can't find them. He said, I can't find them either. I said, what do we do? He said, look, there's a highly trained employee with a mobile communication device. That's a radio. Go ask her. So I ran up to that employee, and I said to her, ma'am, there are no keys in that car. Now, I'm in the gold area. I'm one of those gold customers. There are no keys in that car. You know what do you want her to say to me? I'll get them for you. Let's start with, I'm so sorry. Take any car you want. I'm in the gold area, right? They're all supposed to be ready to go. You know what she said to me? She looked at me and she said, I'll go look. Now think about that for a minute. You two boys couldn't find a key if it was right in front of your face. I'll go over there and find those keys for you. So she went over to the car. She did the same thing we did. And you know what happened? She came back to me, and you know what she said? There are no keys in that car. And I thought to myself, I think I've heard that somewhere. I said, so what are we going to do now? I thought she was going to say, I'm going to give you any car you want. Just take it and go. You know what she said to me? You're going to have to go back to the gold booth. Remember the gold booth? So we went over to the gold booth, and you don't know Chip, but Chip has a really loud voice. And he threw open the door and said, there are no keys in that car. So all the really good customers, they were listening to this. And the young man who had helped us came over to us, and you know what he said? They had trained him really well. No, he didn't. He said, I'll go look. It's going to get better. So he went out to that car, and he did the same thing we did. Meanwhile, all the gold customers are kind of watching this thing go on. And he came back. You know what he said to me? There are no keys in that car. So Hertz has done a great job at training, haven't they? They've trained those employees that you can't trust the customer. They're pretty stupid. So even your really good customers, you have to go look for those keys. Two of them did exactly the same thing. They said exactly the same thing. They're very well trained. But their process is not built around the customer. And doesn't, when you look from the customer's eyes, you go, they don't trust their customer, they don't think too much of them, and their employees know that as well. So we worry, and we ask you to think about your processes when you get back. Yes, sir?
So John, at what point as a knowledgeable, persistent customer did you suggest, I'm a gold customer, can I take one of these? I gotta go to a meeting.
I can't remember. Somewhere in there we said, can we just take any car? And somebody said no. And you know, it's a great question, Jay, and you wonder. Usually I thought you were going to ask me the other question. Who do you rent from now? Well, here's the sad story, is we've tried to rent from pretty much everybody, and we're back at Hertz because we can't find anybody who really does it well. So we're back at Hertz. It's a great question. Yes, sir?
Picked up the phone and called Hertz to sell them your services.
No, but Chip got to speak to the Worldwide Operations Conference of Hertz. And he did not tell the Hertz story because he wanted to get paid. But he did have a great session with them, and they liked it so much, they made him a lifetime platinum customer. Now, I didn't know there was one. I didn't know there was one. But since you asked, I'm going to tell a little bit more of the story than I usually tell. And so what we found out is if you're a platinum customer, it's very interesting. When you land, you call the Hertz office, you tell them you've landed, and a driver brings either your car to the terminal or comes and picks you up in another car to take you to get your car. No getting on the bus when you're a platinum customer. And the cool thing is when you come back, on the way out, you know how you got to stop at the security guard and show them your driver's license and the rental agreement. Not when you're platinum. You just stick that platinum folder out the window and they say, come on through, and you drive right out. But when you come back to return your vehicle and you come in the lot, I hate those people, they're doing this, park it up, come on up here, I hate those people. They think I can't drive or something like that. I hate them. But anyway, when you're platinum, you don't have to do that. When you're platinum, you just hold your folder out the window. Y'all, let me tell you. Somebody on the lot sees it and yell, platinum! And people run to your car. I'm serious. You think I'm making this up, don't you? They run to your car and they say, Mr. Bell, because he's a platinum guy, how was your rental? I'm always driving because you don't let Chip drive. I say, it was great. Thank you very much. Would you like us to take you to the terminal? We really would. And so they immediately do your receipt. Their driver gets in and they take you around to the passenger drop-off there. No riding the bus. Now here's the scary thing. The people that can't do the gold experience and can't get it right are the ones delivering the platinum service and getting it right every time. That's the thing that challenges us. So yeah, Chip did talk with them. But the gold experience, unfortunately, hadn't gotten a whole lot better. The thing I want to tell you today, and I know that I'm out of time, is that it's not about satisfaction. So oftentimes we say, are your customers satisfied? But satisfaction is about just delivering the core requirements of what a customer is looking for. And today we don't get credit for that. We have to do it. We have to do the basics right every time. But we don't get credit for that. What they're looking for is they're looking for an experience that goes beyond the basics. They expect us to deliver the basics every time, but I told you if you surveyed people that left, 75% of them would tell you that they were satisfied, and they're gone. They're gone. So what I would tell you today is customers have changed. Their expectations have risen, and they're changing all the time. And you got to deliver the kind of experience that drives loyalty to keep them, to grow, and go where you need to be. I would urge you to choose a customer experience strategy as a differentiator for your organization. It's sustainable, and it will take you to great places. You've been wonderful. You let me tell all my stories. Thank you so much. I'm ready for questions.
And if you have a question for John, we've got two ladies with microphones. If you just raise your hand and then wait for one of them to bring the microphone, we'll capture what you have to say for the folks that'll be watching the video of this posted on our website shortly.
John, thanks for great talk. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Talk about Hertz a little bit. It's a great example of a company, and I've traveled a long time, probably like you have, that was at one point just phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
And went through some changes in ownership and a lot of cost cutting and so on. But talk about the trends in customer service, how through the last maybe 10 or 15 years, how from my perspective has deteriorated, and then what's happening now from a broad perspective.
It's a great question. And we took a big hit in customer service with the recession because we took a lot of headcount out there. And a lot of times the headcount comes out of the people that are closest to the customer. And a lot of times we took headcount out because we said technology will fill that gap. And unless you're Amazon or Zappos or somebody who really gets it, the technology has made a shortfall. But what's happened is the pendulum is beginning to swing back the other way. And I love to use Delta as an example. I have flown Delta. I mean, I don't know why I don't have my own airplane. You know, I got so many miles on Delta. And they got so bad, and then they went into bankruptcy, and they got worse. And then Richard Hayes showed up, and he figured it out. And now they've changed. And we can feel the change. We can see the change. You saw the American Customer Satisfaction News. We can feel the change. They hadn't all got it. Last week, I had a younger flight attendant who was having a really bad day and decided to take it out on our entire plane, you know. And I got upgraded because I only got, 83 million miles on Delta. And I got upgraded. I was sitting up front. And I knew we were going to have an interesting flight. When I got on, they let us first-class passengers get on early. And she was in the galley because, depending on the airplane, you got to walk by the galley. And she was slamming doors in the galley like this. And I said, how you doing? She said, things are just not going my way. And I thought, maybe I just need to find another flight because it, And, it didn't get any better. She just had a scowl on her face. And, so the pendulum's swinging back. Delta's getting there. The challenge to this is, in order to deliver a great experience, you've got to have a vision that's very clear of what that experience looks like. And you've got to work over and over and over again to make sure everybody's on board and they stay on board. We say you need 3 things to go where you're thinking people need to go. If you want to make your strategy a customer strategy, you need leaders that role model the behaviors you're looking for, and we don't see that often. You need great teamwork, because if you have a weak link in your team, then you're not going to have consistency, and customers cry for consistency today. And you need accountability. Now, I know many of you think of accountability as a dark word. The way we think about accountability is that you have clear expectations for performance that are well communicated. You give great feedback on a regular basis along the way, and there are consequences for performance. So people who do really good, they have really good consequences. And people who don't do so good, they have those other kind of consequences. But you got to have that to get where you're going. We see it coming back. Do you see it coming back? Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Any other questions? I love it. I love questions, and I'll only stay here till lunchtime. So.
Sorry, I'm wearing this jacket. I'm freezing. So.
Well, we got to get some service in here. That's right.
I'm in the hospitality industry, and I would be very interested to know your experiences with different hospitality companies and what your favorite one is, and if you've ever had a wonderful experience or a really poor one.
I've had every kind of experience that you can imagine. So I'll be fully transparent and tell you that right after the Darden School, I was a general manager in the hospitality industry. And so once you're a general manager, you kind of keep that. So I know way too much about what goes on in hotels. Do I have a favorite hotel chain? Well, who do you work for? Oh, okay. I like this full disclosure stuff we got here. Oh, okay, that's fair. So we travel all the time. We love the Kimpton hotel chain. Kimpton has been the most profitable, highest rated customer satisfaction hotel chain for the last couple of years. They have properties like the Hotel Monaco in many different cities, and we love the way they deliver their service. They're a little different. They're a mid-priced business hotel, but they're all about enchanting their customers, and they're very, very good at it. I've probably had a bad experience in most of the chains that we have in this country. So who do you work for?
I work for Marriott.
Well, we love Marriott. They do a great job. No. I have a slide. On Marriott. We didn't get to it. And what we like about Marriott is how consistent that experience is. My partner taught at Marriott's Executive Leadership School for many years there, and so we know them well. We worked on the courtyard when there were just a few courtyards, helping them crystallize what they wanted to be, and I think they've done a phenomenal job. But the hallmark of Marriott is they understand what the business traveler looks for. They know that maybe as much as 80% of how they feel about the experience is based on what happens at check-in. So as a business traveler, what kind of check-in do you want? Well, if we could just not have one and you can hand us a key, which is why I like that remote check-in, we'd love it. And what kind of checkout do you want? Well, if we could just not have one, we'd love that too, don't we? You know, when I stay at these hotels and they don't slip your bill under the door, you know, in the morning, we're usually going to a meeting and we're in a hurry. And we go down to the desk and say, I didn't get my bill under the door. And they look at you and they say, oh, well, we wanted to see you before you left. And I thought to myself, you might want to see me, but I don't want to see you. And that's a case where I don't think they really understand what their customers are really looking for. So I think you were the great organization. Great. Yes, sir. We should have left that microphone over there.
Going along with this slide, one of the fad metrics that's out is Net Promoter Score.
Oh, good. You gonna ask me about that?
I don't agree with it. I work for AT&T. We use it. We believe in it. But no.
There are no other AT&T people.
I'm not in the consumer side.
Okay.
But going along with it, it doesn't do anything as far as a customer's willingness to buy again, which is really what matters. I don't know if there's a metric that you
Sure.
prefer. Or
Great question.
Yep.
So the Net Promoter Score is out there. A lot of people use it. What we worry about with the Net Promoter Score is what we don't get with Net Promoter, to your point. And there's so much gold when you get the customer to answer some open-ended questions and tell you some things. You know, we love to ask about the overall experience. And the challenge we have with, first of all, we're all over-surveyed, so I understand that. So you have to be careful about that. But is the way that you write the language. We like to write the language of the research we do in the customer's language. So if I asked you, overall, how would you rate your experience? I don't think there's anybody in the room who's going to say, you know, I was almost highly satisfied. Or you've seen those other ones, you know, I was pretty much very satisfied. You know what I'm talking about? Whereas if you really got in the head of the customer and said, we'd like you to tell us how you would describe, what word you would use to describe a great experience, we think they'd say something like, it was awesome. It was terrific. And so we like to use descriptors that are like that. We like to ask a question about the overall experience, and we like to ask a referral question. But instead of asking, would you refer, we like to ask, have you referred? It's a very different question. And we used the same approach with a bank in Nicaragua. They've been using the question, would you refer a family member or a friend to our bank? And they were running in the 90s. Yes, either absolutely or very likely. And we said, let's do some research and ask them, have they referred? Now, what do you think happened to that score? It dropped 20 points. It dropped 20. There's one thing about intention. There's quite another thing when you ask them if they actually did it. And we always like to ask if they rated us other than a 4 or a 5, which are the top two boxes, what could we do to improve? And we usually get some gold. And, you know, Net Promoter, if you strictly do Net Promoter, you don't get any of that. So I'm right there with you. You get some good stuff on Net Promoter, but we think you need more. We need more. How we doing? Okay. Okay? I'm having a good time. Hope you are. So, this lady's from the MBA school, so I'm worried about that.
All right, so I'm interested in what we can do as customers to improve our own experience,
Oh,
other
that's a
than
great question.
getting on and saying everything went awfully.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I'm going to tell you another story because that's the way we kind of convey what we do. And we believe if you want great service, then you need to be the attitude that you want. So let me explain what I mean. You know, we on the road all the time. We go to restaurants we've never been to before. And one time we were working with a client in, where were we? We were in Tennessee. I think we were in Knoxville, Tennessee. And we were there doing some training with a client, and it's Valentine's Day. And the client looks at us at the end of the first day of training and said, let's go out to dinner. And we said, well, that'd be great, but where are 3 dudes going to go to dinner on Valentine's Day, right? And we asked the folks who are local, we said, where would you go? And they said, well, I would really recommend you go here, but I doubt you can get a table because did you forget it was Valentine's Day? We said, no, we didn't forget, but we know we got 3 dudes on Valentine's Day. So my partner called the restaurant and talked to the owner of the restaurant who happened to pick up the phone, told them when we'd come, and they said, you know what? Every table's booked, but I believe I can seat you all for dinner at the bar. Would you mind? And he said, that'd be fantastic. So we got to the restaurant, we walked in, told them who we were, and they sat us at the bar, and we said, this is fabulous, thank you so much. And the bartender introduced herself, and we said, we heard you do a great job, and we are excited to be your customers. Now, what kind of service do you think we started getting from that bartender right then? She's just couldn't do enough for us. And about 10 minutes later, the owner of the restaurant came over and said, gosh, guys, you know what? Unexpectedly, I have a table that's opened up. Would you like it? And we looked to her and said, we would, but only if we could have your best server. Now, who do you think we're going to get when we said that? And so we went over and sat down, and I can't remember the young lady's name who was our server, but she came over to the table and welcomed us. And we said, and she introduced herself. It might have been Holly. So I'm Holly, and I'll be taking care of you. And we said, that's fantastic. We heard you're the best server they have here. Now, what do you think is going to happen to us? Are we going to get a great experience? And then my buddy, who's my business partner, said, and we're big tippers. And if you do a great job, we are big tippers there. And so that's how we do it, and we try that. Now, we do find that sometimes we have to do a little remedial work. We are big Starbucks users. We think they're very consistent. But we find in New York City, they're not as friendly at some of the Starbucks as they are at some of the other ones. And so we go into this one Starbucks where we stay when we work with the Javits Center, and there's this one woman who's there, and she's almost figured it out, but not quite yet. And if she doesn't say good morning, Chip says, good morning, how you doing? And you know, in New York City, that doesn't play well sometimes. And she kind of looks at us, but she'll sort of say good morning, but not like you would expect there. So we do that all the time. We just try to be the attitude we're looking for. Our problem is when we get bad service, we don't handle it very well, and my family will tell you they've evacuated restaurants at times when they've seen the look on my face, because we think great service should be there for all of us, and it's just not that hard. It's just not that hard. All right, how we doing? We good? Oh, y'all been great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay. He said I had to stand up here. I'm not going to talk anymore.
Well, you're certainly welcome to continue. We've really enjoyed your talk this morning. I thought I knew you well before this, but I had no idea you had this much anger and joy.
Oh,
inside
thank you.
I'm glad, hopefully the release here was cathartic.
It was awesome.
For you.
It is always says.
One thing we do like to do for all of our guests, and I hope I don't drop this because it's a wonderful glass sculpture, but this is created by a local artist, Loretta Eby, so hopefully you will accept it
That's
as
fabulous.
a token of our appreciation.
Thank you
for
so
coming
much.
today. You're
This is
very
awesome.
welcome. Thank
I
you
enjoyed
for
it.
what
Thank
you
you.
had to say.